Hi friends, hello. I hope everybody is doing fantastic. Today we're going to be discussing the most recent interesting immigration news with me, immigration lawyer Alina Shevtsova. I'm going to share with you recent court rulings. Various courts ruled various things with regard to our immigration matters. And of course, I'm going to also talk with you about very important thing that's happening right now is a discussion of ICE reform and what the United States government is trying to do with the fact that 65% of Americans are not happy with the way ICE are handling their business, So please join me. Let me know where you're watching from. And of course, type up your questions. Let me know if you can hear me, guys. If you are watching me on TikTok, I'm sorry, if you're watching me on YouTube, and if you're watching me on Facebook, let me know if you can hear me well, please, so that we can proceed, of course. And you guys on TikTok are always so good. Thank you very much for your hearts. Thank you for saying hello. Please join me. Let me know what questions you have. Hi, Dr. Abid from Instagram. All right. Somebody else in Asylum or Said, thank you guys for joining. Please like, share the stream. Let me know how everything is where you are watching me from. Don't forget that tonight I'm answering your questions live as well. So don't be shy. Type up your questions. Again, if you guys are watching me on YouTube and Facebook, let me know if you can hear me. And we're going to start. Well, the first thing that I wanted to share with you relates to federal judge blocking California law about ICE agents wearing masks. You may recall that after the first robust ICE operations in LA, people of California stated that they do not like and do not want to see federal agents invading their state and not showing their faces. So the California lawmakers got together and they passed a special law according to which federal ICE agents should not be wearing masks. And everything was doing fantastic until federal government sued the lawmakers of California, the state of California, saying that this law is unlawful. And hence what happened is that that issue traveled to federal courts, and a federal judge stated that it is not lawful. But you may be surprised by the reasoning that the judge gave. It's not that the judge stated that federal agents need special protection or anything of that sort. The judge stated that California law discriminated against federal agents because under the same law, local agents would not be required to wear masks during the enforcement, not to wear masks during the enforcement, right? So they stated that if you are passing the law, it has to be applied equally to federal agents and to state agents. So very, very interesting, right? As such, that provision, that law finally, currently is not being enforced, and federal agents may cover their faces. Very interesting, something to learn from all these rulings, of course. We'll see how it's going to go, if the provisions will be amended. Do not know that, we'll see. Then we have another very important ruling, and I discussed it in my shorts. Fifth Federal Circuit Court of Appeals made a very important finding, very important decision last Friday, stating that people who entered the United States illegally do not qualify for bond. Extremely important decision. Why? Because in the United States, there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who entered the United States without inspection or visa and remained in the United States for decades. And this ruling is so important for them because the ruling comes from the Fifth Circuit. Fifth Circuit has jurisdiction over Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. What is in Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, guys? The most crowded, most frequently used by the ICE immigration jails. So now, all it takes for ICE to keep somebody in that jail forever would be to arrest them and move them within the jurisdiction of the Fifth Circuit. If such a person entered the United States without inspection, whether it happened yesterday or 10 or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, such a person will not be able to qualify for bond because of that ruling. I have to tell you that it's not, the law is not the same in every federal circuit in the United States. So what is happening before our eyes is what we call a federal circuit split. Some territories, some jurisdictions rule against this finding and some rule for this finding. And the issue ultimately must be resolved by the United States Supreme Court if they would like to take that issue and resolve it. Because the United States Supreme Court doesn't have to make any decisions if they do not want to. You can ask them to review the issue, but they may respectfully decline. But so far, this is what we have in this very important area of ICE enforcement and detention. And for many of you, I know this is a paramount question. If I'm arrested, will I be able to be released on bond? Why? Because it affects your family, especially your children, even if the children are US citizens, right? So we need to know this answer. What is going to happen? And now you know that if you entered without inspection, even if you already have something going on for yourself, you filed for asylum, cancellation of removal, right? It doesn't stop ICE from arresting you as long as you don't have lawful non-immigrant status or green card or citizenship and placing you in detention without possibility of being released. Now, in some jurisdictions, you can get out. How? You file for Habeas Corpus Act, but not everywhere. And again, if your case is moved to a jurisdiction where the law says you should not be released, you will not be released. Very important ruling, right? Very important. Finally, we have one more update. Immigration courts fast-track hearings for Somali asylum claims. Somali asylum seekers. So what's happening is this: after the scandals that took place in the end of last year, where people from Somalia were accused of mass fraud in immigration, the government of the United States decided not to sit anymore on their cases and expedite the decisions on their asylum claims. It tells you that they do have a power and time and ability to advance your hearing date if they really want to, just like they did for this particular group of people. They just rescheduled their cases to a faster date, right? That's it. I do not know if these people have claims or they don't have claims, but the fact is that most of them, according to this article, instead of waiting for their court date in 2029, 2030, are going to have their court date next month in April, March and April. That's what this article is about. Can it happen to a different group of people? Of course it can. It all depends on this administration. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, immigration courts are not independent, and they do have to follow what the executive branch is telling them to do. And as a result, we see what we see here. There is an order from Attorney General, from the President to Attorney General, from Attorney General to the head of the EOIR, Executive Office of Immigration Review, and this order is going to be followed. Now, during the administration times, when administration favors immigrants, it's a good thing, right? That's what we saw with the prosecutorial discretion during the times of the Biden administration. During the times when we see administration that does not favor immigrants, then it's a bad thing, as we're seeing right now. That's how it plays out. It's been a long time call that immigration court judges must be independent, but they're not right now. And I don't think they will become independent for a while, right? And as a result, they do what they're told to do. Now, guys, if you have your questions, please let me know. Let's see, guys, on TikTok, what's happening. Hi, thank you for joining. Let's see what questions you guys have. Am I a real lawyer? Yes, I am. I am a licensed attorney. I've been licensed since 2008 in the United States, and first started practicing law back in my home country of Belarus. Hi, Nafisa. My brother been detained by ICE today in Ohio. I'm sorry to hear that. At least you know what happened to your brother, and he just didn't disappear, right? And now you need to consult with an attorney to see if your brother has any hope to be released on bond. If not, what would be the next steps for him, for his case? Does he have a previous order of removal against him or not? Any criminal charges? How did he enter the United States? All that is very relevant when we decide, when we determine what would be the best approach for one's case, okay? I have to tell you that it's very hard right now to receive bond, even if you qualify for it. If you're not statutory disqualified from the bond, what happens is that you have to show that you're not a flight risk, that you will come back to your immigration court hearing. And if there is anything negative in your record, sometimes it can be even something minor like traffic violations, the judges tend to deny bond, okay? So every case must be prepared very, very well. Hi, Elena. I have an asylum pending and would like to withdraw it and get O1 visa through consular processing. Well, it may be a good plan. If you file a petition for the O1 and it gets approved, then if you're not an immigration court, it's relatively easy to withdraw your asylum case. But what you need to know is that just because you're going to withdraw your asylum case, it's not going to disappear from your record, okay? So once you filed that asylum with the government, it's in your history forever. And you have to take this into consideration, because if you're planning on doing the consular processing in your home country, you're going to face some tough questions, okay? Hi. I'm not sure, the name is upside down. My parents got interview for the green card. After interview, they handed family budget plan. Need to submit. Well, I guess What is happening here is that they're being tested against that public charge rule, right? Family budget plan. So that's what's going on. Is it a legitimate question by USCIS? I would say probably yes. Because as you recall, USCIS may ask questions about the public charge factors, including what is the budget, where they get the money for it from, right? So I'm not really surprised, but the lawyer who went with them for that interview is the best source of information. I do not know your parents' case. I do not know what's happening, who is the sponsor, who is the petitioner, what the previous history is, but I would say that that's what's happening. The government is trying to see if they may potentially become public charge. I have a question. Say a person has an order of removal and they marry a US citizen after the order. All right, so such a person will have the following options. Option number one, try to reopen their old removal order. Recently, the Board of Immigration Appeals ruled that just because you got married with a US citizen after the order of removal became final, that by itself, only that, does not represent any special circumstances warranting for the case to be reopened. Just a recent decision from a week ago or so. However, if the same person has some other grounds to reopen their case, then they may be successful. Then we need to look into the question whether or not it's even worth it for the person to try to reopen their case. Why? Because if initially such a person entered the United States without inspection, then they will not be able to adjust unless they fall under 245I exception. So why would you even bother with this reopening? It's not going to help. You probably would try to go for two waivers instead. I-212, I-601A in certain situations. So the answer depends. Lawyer's favorite answer. The answer depends on many circumstances. Hi, Dama. Thank you very much for your gift. So guys on Facebook and YouTube, you can't hear me. Please confirm. Because I've been talking here for 18 minutes and I do not know. All right, let's see. Hi, SH. I'm a US citizen, got married with my husband back in 2021. In 2024, he came through CBP1. After stock interview in November, and I-130 was approved after 1 month, but I-45 still not. No criminal charges, but we are from that 75 country ban list. Okay, so even though there is this ban for 75 countries, that particular ban is only for people who are filing for immigrant visas from overseas. However, within the United States, in the United States, there are other bans, right? And those other bans may affect the resolution on the case. But if you guys don't fall into those other bans, what you should do is contact your local congressman and ask them for help. This is the first thing that somebody with a stuck case must do, right? It's free, it's effective, and it's totally worth it. Hi, Nafisa. I have an asylum case. Can I get married with a green card holder and get a green card? Well, you should get married with the love of your life, if that's the case. Until that person becomes a US citizen, in most cases, you will not be able to benefit in terms of immigration status from that marriage. Okay? Not going to be possible. Just so you know. Why? Because there is something called 245C, prohibition on adjustment of status for people who are going through adjustment of status based on preference categories. All right? And you, as a spouse of a green card holder, will fall into that category and you will not be able to get adjustment. Now, if initially you entered with inspection or parole and your spouse becomes a US citizen, then most likely you will be able to fix your immigration status based on that relationship. All right? Okay. Hi, Mom. I'm waiting to formally request a consultation regarding a political asylum. I have my personal documentation ready and would like to know the next steps for opening a case with your firm. Well, thank you very much for trusting us. To do so, you can either go to my website, sheltsova.com, and book an appointment, or call my office from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 18 o'clock. If you're using military time, you're used to it. And my secretaries will find time for us to go over your case and see if we can help you and if asylum is the right thing for you. Okay? Remember, there is 1 year asylum filing deadline. It's very important, especially these days because of the changed appeal rules, right? A person starting about March 9th, if I'm not mistaken, thank you very much, Mueddin. A person whose asylum case is denied will have 30 days to file an appeal. But if the same case is denied due to missed 1 year filing deadline, such a person is going to have only 10 days to file the appeal. Very important. All right? All right. Let's see if we have more questions. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I am in New York. Hi, Francisco. I have a DUI before becoming a resident 10 years ago. Can I apply for citizenship? And if I'm in the army, if that would help? If you're in the military, well, it definitely helps because it reflects on your good moral character. Absolutely. And by the way, if you join the military, check if maybe you became already a US citizen. Very often, if you're not a US citizen and you are a green card holder, right after you book boot camp, there is this group oath ceremony. At least that's how it used to be a couple of years ago. So I do not know how long you've been in the military, but one DUI should not prevent you from becoming a US citizen. Okay. All right. So on the Democrats, they were independent while approving millions of illegal asylum cases. Hi, Buruk. No, nobody was approving millions of illegal asylum cases. Asylum is one of those reliefs that's always been vetted very thoroughly. The law on asylum is very strict. People may have different misconceptions about asylum, but the truth was and is that not so many people truly would qualify for asylum. It's hard. It's always been hard to win an asylum case. And what's happening here, though, is this. Different administrations view country conditions in various countries differently. Well, the previous administration, for example, believed that country R was very brutal and unfair to their citizens if such citizens criticize the government of that country. And it can be something very small, trivial, like a comment on social media. The new administration does not believe in that. They're saying that everything is fantastic in country R and you can safely go there, even though we do have proof that once a person returns to that country, the person gets arrested for a little thing like a comment online. So that's what's happening. Okay. So people say, oh, well, those and those, such and such group of people, they commit fraud. They don't commit fraud. It's almost, well, I would say not impossible, but it's extremely hard if you thoroughly go through an asylum case not to see evidence of fraud, especially for any practitioner who dealt with asylum cases 5 to 10 years. Most immigration judges, at least previously, they had quite large experience, extensive experience handling asylum cases. So I strongly disagree with the statement that the previous administration were just granting those asylum cases, like rubber stamping them. That's just not true. Never, it's never been the truth. Okay. All right, what is going on to happen on February 15th about trying to stop deportations for U visa, VAW, and T visa applicants? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I really do not know. I'm sorry, Veronica. I will not be able to tell you. If you have some information, please share with me. So on the Democrats, they were independent. Okay, I know that there is a budget situation, right, going on right now, but maybe your question relates to that, or maybe you saw some particular announcement, and if so, let me know what you would like to discuss. Hi, Edward. Me and Mai will be traveling to Mexico. She just got a spouse. She just got her green card. You'd say traveling should be okay? But yes, a person who got the green card lawfully, a person who has not committed any crimes, should have no issues traveling. All right, just don't stay there for a long time. All right. Hi, Sirius. Do we handle I-360 forms? Yes, we do. Hi, Fardi. Could a waiver be approved the same day as the green card, please? Yes, of course. It happens all the time if you filed your waiver on time. In fact, I recorded and I'm editing a video about the most common mistakes that cause removal or deportation proceedings against you in 2026. And one of the things I'm talking about in that video that I will publish probably tomorrow is this particular issue. When you know that you need a waiver, or you should have known that you needed a waiver, but you did not file for it. But if you filed I-45 and I-601 together, you honestly disclosed your issue, then the waiver and green card will be adjudicated usually at the same time. Hi, Austin. My asylum interview was rescheduled under good cause. Now it's 2 months, still waiting. Any idea? Well, you can follow up with the asylum office, but the general pause on asylum cases may affect your, rescheduling schedule, your rescheduling date, right? Hi, Desiree. What is the process of filing I-589 via the post office? What is the turnaround time? Will the receipt acknowledgement or response come via post or email? Well, great question. So if you are submitting your I-589 application for asylum by mail, the receipt will be issued and come by mail as well. However, I find it currently more effective to file your case online because the receipt is issued almost immediately. By mail, we see great delays. I just had to deal with this issue. When we submitted the case by mail, and within a couple of weeks, I haven't heard anything from USCIS on that asylum claim. I was tracking whether or not they took out the money from my account. They didn't. So we made a decision to refile the case online just to make sure that we are within the deadlines. Now, interesting thing, the mailed in case was never returned to us. So I suspect all that is going to happen that at some point they will catch that fee as well. And then the case will be double filed, which is not a big deal at all. But because we encountered this issue, now I strongly believe it is better to file online to make sure that your case is filed within the deadlines and you will not miss your deadline. Because now it's more important than ever not to miss that deadline for asylum cases. Okay. Thank you very much, Moedin, for the rose. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining my fan club. How long does I-212 take to hear response? Hi, Jen. Well, I guess it depends where you're filing this form and what would be the circumstances. If you're filing I-212 because of the previous order of removal in the United States, typically within 3 to 4 months For sure, you're going to hear back from ICE. If you're filing it from overseas, it takes years to hear back. If you're filing it in the United States within some other process, because sometimes you can do that. Unfortunately, most of the waiver applications currently, I do not know why, would take significant amount of time. Significant amount of time. We're talking over a year, okay? Thank you guys, by the way, for joining my social media, for following on TikTok and joining YouTube and Facebook. So please share the stream so more people will be able to join. Thank you guys for your hearts. Hi, Larry. I had my interview and I-130 was canceled hours after, but I-45 is still actively being reviewed. Ouch. Tell me, did your spouse withdraw their I-130? That would be the only reason why you would get that information that I-130 was canceled. So speak with your spouse, all right? Maybe they'll be honest with you and they will tell you what happened to them, why they decided to withdraw the I-130, because that seems to me exactly what happened. Okay. Hi guys on Instagram. Sorry for not getting back to you. Hi Sveta. Got green cards for marriage in December of 2025. What is the best way to close my pending asylum case? There was no asylum interview. Just send a request to withdraw your asylum case, notarized, to your local asylum office where the case is pending. Okay. Let's see. My I-5 at 9 was not accepted online because of the mistake. Filed via post office, but still no response 7 weeks later. Correct. So it's going to take a long time. So hopefully they did receive it and they're just sitting on issuing the receipt, as I told you. As long as they received it and you know that you correctly filled out all the fields in on that asylum form, no gaps, you signed it, you should be okay. And of course, you attach the filing fee. Remember, the filing fee now must be paid when you file for asylum. It's no longer free, okay? As long as you did everything correctly, it's just a huge delay in processing those cases. Hi, Austin. If someone is waiting for asylum interview with USCIS, can ICE arrest them? Yes, of course. Rarely, but sometimes it happens that ICE arrests people at the asylum interview. Usually people who are on special lists, terrorist watch, or with criminal background. Okay? But is it possible? Absolutely. Asylum pending, work permit only, TPS pending is not status that prevent ICE from arresting you, unfortunately. Hi, Rainman. How can I get my son a visa and passport to go to Russia from Miami? I have no idea. The best way to handle that would be to contact a travel agency. United States immigration lawyers do not deal with such issues because that would be governed by the Russian immigration law. I don't know it. So what you need to do is to contact a travel agency. There is a great one called Gloves Travel, GLAVS Travel. I know that they have office in Brooklyn. I'm not sure if they have an office in other states. I do not know, but I'm sure they can help you out. Hi, Tumbleweeds. Do you think other circuit courts will follow the Fifth Circuit's decision? Some of them will, those who haven't ruled on this issue yet, I'm sure. Because we already see some ruling, just like the Fifth Circuit did. But remember, what's significant here is the location of those immigration detention centers. Most of them, by miracle, are on the territory, within the territory of this Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Louisiana, horrible jails there that nobody can reach people in, and it's just a mess. Texas has Dilley Detention Center, where immigrants are kept with their children. They're keeping kids in immigration detention center with their parents. That's in Texas. That's the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. All right. Let's see. Hi, Fatima. If you have a master hearing and you overstay your visa, is it possible ICE can detain you? Possible, but less likely. If you enter the United States on a visa, not visa waiver, but a visa, unless something else is going on, you should qualify for a bond. Okay? So even if they detain you, you will be able to file for bond and get out of that immigration detention on a bond. So chances are they're not going to be detaining you. They're usually focusing on people who cannot get out on a bond. Hello, I came in as a student and currently on my OPT. Please, I'm married now, but I don't know how to do what? Start my application. All right. Are you married to a US citizen? Then you should look into adjustment of status based on marriage. How you would go about it? Well, I can tell you the names of the forms you guys will have to submit, but you should consult with an immigration lawyer, of course, because if there were previous marriages, name change, things, criminal charges, maybe some other wild situations. Sometimes we're dealing with wild situations. It is best if you work with an immigration lawyer. But these are the forms that typically a person who is married to a US citizen would have to file in order to get a green card. I-130, I-130A, I-45, I-765, I-131, I-864. Some people will need I-601, waiver form. You can find all these forms online, uscis.gov website. Some of these forms, when you're going to be submitting them, will require a fee. Actually, all of them. Only the form I-864 does not require a fee currently. Okay, but that's how you start your research for your case. Thank you, Tumbleweed. All right. Guys, if you do not live together with your spouse currently, chances are your green card application is not going to be approved. This administration is zooming in on the issue whether or not you're sharing residence. You have to share residence, okay? Hi, Miota. I apply asylum because LGBT my country illegal. Which evidence would be good? Of course, you should print out that law, text of that law that makes it illegal. Believe it or not, in some countries on this planet, there are laws like that, and you actually can print them out. Also, you should get articles, news articles from online sources, newspapers, magazines, describing how people who identify themselves as LGBT are treated in your home country. Are they deprived of an opportunity to get jobs, education, health assistance if they need medical help, right? Health concerns. Sometimes they deny treatment. Like nobody wants to treat them if they know that you're gay. It's a real thing. And of course, maybe there are criminal charges that such people may face once it is revealed, known that they identify themselves as LGBT. What if you're wearing an LGBT signs on your clothes and your bags and stuff? So you need to collect this information and present it. Now, did anything bad like this happen to you while you were in your home country or not? Because that would determine whether you can show past persecution or your claim is going to be based on fear of future persecution. Consult with an attorney and they will help you to formulate your asylum claim better. Okay? Hi, that can an employer who is willing to do whatever get you back in status if you overstay? No, an employer doesn't have such a power. Even though it's great to have an employer who is willing to do whatever for you, I mean, listen, that's amazing. But no, unfortunately, they can't, usually. But in certain situations, the petition will be helpful. I'm going to tell you one of such a situation. Somebody is asking, can I consult you as my lawyer? Of course you can. Please call my office, 917-885-2261. You can see my number if you're watching me on TikTok right here. If you're watching me on YouTube, is at the bottom of this screen. So hear me out. If you overstayed F1 visa, J1 visa, for example, now you have an employer who is willing to do whatever. We don't need them to do many things. We just need them to file EB2 or EB3 case for you. And that case gets approved. And time comes for you to use that approval because it's not quick. Such a case usually takes 2 to 3 years at least to be processed. And now you have to leave the United States. If you overstayed F1 or J1 visa, even now, even currently, if it was a simple overstay and the government never made a formal determination that you overstayed your status, your visa, and you have to go back home, you actually did not accumulate unlawful presence time, and you will be able to depart the United States safely and without a waiver upon receipt of that visa, come back. But that's one way an employer who is willing to do whatever can help you. Okay? Sometimes when you have a TPS, such an eager employer may also be of a lot of help. If you travel on TPS advance parole and come back, then you consider to be legal. Again, this administration has not changed that yet. All right? So there are ways sometimes that sponsorship will really be helpful. Not always. So, if someone filed for asylum after 8 years, it's an issue? Yes, D. Usually it is a big issue unless such a person will prove that they should qualify or they qualify for an asylum filing deadline exception. Change of country conditions, change in personal circumstances. Very often there is such an exception. Person maintained lawful non-immigrant status, but it expired. And then you have a reasonable time within which you're going to submit your asylum application and restore that 1 year filing deadline. Hi, Bunny. Is there a good chance to win in Newark, New Jersey on individual hearing? Bunny, it depends. It depends on what the claim is, how well you're prepared. I see people losing the strongest cases because of the lack of the preparation or mistakes. Silly mistakes like they didn't check the dates they left on the form I-589 and they put on the affidavit in support of asylum claim. Discrepancies were not corrected somehow, and such a claim will be denied. So it all depends on how well you're prepared for your case and country conditions and some other things like when did you file for your asylum? Was it within the deadline? Not within the deadline? All is very relevant. Okay. All right, guys, let me answer one last question for tonight. All right. All right. They fired my judge in San Francisco. Oh, they fired a lot of judges in San Francisco. And put me in 2029 final hearing date. Hi, North Face. May not be the worst thing in the world. If this administration is going to change, okay, in 2029, it may not be the worst thing in the world for you. So don't be upset. However, as I said, you do have an option to ask for your hearing date to be advanced. But before you do that, please make sure you have a very strong and well-prepared case. Okay? Otherwise, you're just asking to be deported faster. It doesn't make any sense. Well, guys, thank you very much for liking, sharing the stream, for joining tonight. Thank you for your questions. If you're looking for free immigration information, visit my website, shaltsova.com. Okay? Stay connected so that we're going to meet again, discuss your questions and immigration news. Don't forget to check out videos on my YouTube, and I hope to see you soon.